Welcome to East by West Farms. Here we grow what we eat and eat what we grow. We are in November, but we have such a warm fall this year. I'm still wearing my t-shirt. So I thought it's a good time to show what is still growing here in Texas. Since the weather here is so unpredictable, I basically watch what the native plants are doing and then trying to plant it accordingly. For example, over here is the Texas ground cherry, and it's still blooming. It sprouted after the weather cools, and then it's starting flower and the fruits. When I see the Texas ground cherry sprouted, I start to put the cool season vegetable seeds down. I got fava beans here amid all the summer crops. So I have kohlrabi over here. It's all mixed in with summer vegetable and the cool season vegetable. The challenge when we have a very warm fall is that the grasshoppers are very active. So if you have a patch that just have cool season vegetable, the grasshopper will just come and eat all the seedlings. Plant the cool season vegetable in the summer vegetable. That seems to be kind of confuse the grasshopper, and then they can survive. Once I take out the summer vegetable, I will have already pretty grown out cool season vegetable that take over. Over here we have bok choys. They're actually getting huge. I hope the weather will get cooler and then they will set wrapper. So I usually grow the bok choy not for eat bok choy like a conventional way, but I like the wrapper because the wrapper just keep giving. And then have kohlrabi here. Of course, I can eat the kohlrabi leaves for cooking. This one looks like it's about to set bulbs. Hopefully we'll get some kohlrabi bulbs and they can store for a long time for winter. These are mustard greens that just self-sprouted, and either I will harvest for food or just use it as a cover crop or feed to the chicken. And this is cilantro. It's so hot that it starts to setting seeds already, which is not bad because cilantro can sprout in cool weather. So if I get more seeds, I just let it drop, and then they will continue to sprout here since our winter is not too cold, and then just have continuous supply of cilantros. These are sweet potatoes that's growing from cuttings. Of course, I'm not going to get sweet potato tubers from this plant, at least not for this year. But what I hope is they set roots down deep enough that they will survive the winter, and then in spring they will come back up and then cover this with sweet potatoes. That's a pepper plant actually from fall planting. So I decided to experiment. In August, I think I sprouted some peppers, and then I transplant and see if we have enough time for them to set fruit. Right now, look like they're setting fruit. So it depends on when we get our first frost. If we get a light frost, I might cover it, and then they will continue to grow. So we'll see. It's an experiment, and since we don't know when we're going to get the first freeze, it's worth gambling. These are fava beans that sprouted. I usually plant them like around this time. They can take some freeze, so usually we get fava beans in early spring. But this year I decided to just try to plant them early, and this one start to setting flowers, and they have very fragrant flower. Maybe we will get some fava beans in December. Some culture eat fava bean leaves. They look tender. Right now, I can see that I can cook with it. In the worst case, I just have fava bean leaves as green for cooking. This dense jungle over here has sweet potatoes. Usually they don't like cold weather. When at night, if it hit 50 degrees Fahrenheit and below, you will start to see the damage on the leaves. But we haven't had a very cold night yet, so the leaves still looks very good. And then we have peanuts from summer that are still growing. The tomatoes that still set out bloom, so I'm not sure whether we will even get green tomatoes. It really depends on when the freeze hit. In Texas, you never know. We could get freeze next week, or we may not get freeze at all. So you cannot plan for anything because of the weather is so unpredictable. So what I do is just put seeds down and take my chances. I'm surrounded by this dense patch of mustard greens, and I actually didn't plant them, so I just let a few plants go to seed in spring, and when the weather cools, they just sprout. It's great for cover crop. The nice thing about the mustard green is the leaves have a little bit bitter taste, so the grasshopper don't seem to bother with them. So they are usually the first cool season vegetable that sprout. That gives me an indication that when I see the mustard greens start to grow, then I can put down cool season vegetable seeds down. These are very versatile vegetable. If you haven't grown them, I really encourage you to try it out, because I use them for cover crop to loosen the soil. They actually have a pretty strong root system. I also can preserve them in many different ways for winter when there's not a whole lot of vegetable. And we love to blanch them to kind of get the bitterness out, and then cook with meat or anything, just like stir fry them. These are the green mulch using the mustard green leaf. You can see over here that two mustard green leaves, the plants that just get cut almost to the ground. I just throw the leaves over here as green mulch, and if I'm industrious, I will come to bring some wood chips to cover them, and that provides nutrition for the soil. I just cut them, and you can see that they start to growing again. So they are fast growing plant. In 2 weeks, they are going to grow huge, and then I can cut them again. Some place I just pour them out, see how deep the root is for a leafy vegetable. So that is also very nice for soil conditioning. So if I just keep cutting them, and then they die, and then the roots get rotten, and they basically have these holes in the soil that collect water. It's a nice cover crop, and also, of course, a vegetable. I basically just let some of them go to seeds so that I have plenty of seeds to kind of spread around. And like you see in the previous video, it was just full of mustard greens that I can either just chop and drop, or I can harvest them for cooking. These are Texas native. These are ground cherries. I didn't plant them. They just sprout by themselves. They have this cute kind of tomatillo fruit. You can dry them. They taste like a candy. So I usually wait until they turn yellow and then collect them. Over here is borage. Again, this is self-sprouted. It looks like it just started. It's going to have flowers. That's what I'm harvesting the borage flower as an edible flower. This is our new garden area. So I'm experimenting to see if I can grow things in Texas without watering, basically rely on rainwater. Obviously, it's not fully set up yet, and so you see lots of weeds over here. But I do find a plant that survived this summer and a very dry fall without much problem. That's the sweet potato plant. I planted it here and pretty much forgot about it. And look like it's still growing. We haven't had rain for 3 months, look like, and it's still going. So I think in the winter here, I'm going to deepen the swale over here so I can collect more water and then plant all this field over here with sweet potatoes. And we'll see how next year goes. I put these chives here along this fence because I think the rabbit and the deers don't like the smell of chives, so they don't come into the garden. I intentionally didn't water it during summer because I want to see if they will survive. I think they died down during summer, so I thought they're all dead. But when the weather cools, they come back up and they don't look so good, which not surprised because we haven't got much rain yet. The nice thing with chives is you can cut them and they will grow back. When we get rain, I will cut them all down to the ground, and then they will send out new growth, and that will be a very tender leaves to harvest for cooking. Over here, we don't get deep freeze, so they can survive the winter without any problem and provide fresh vegetable for us during winter. I have some very healthy tomato plants over here. Our spring is so short. Usually I don't get tomatoes. I decided to experiment for tomatoes, and I saved the seeds from the tomato I got, like the romaine tomato, and put them in a pot in August, and they actually sprouted. So then I transplanted them over here. Now they are setting flowers, and I can see baby tomatoes over here. Probably will not have enough time for them to turn red, but you'll never know because I don't know when we're going to have our first freeze. Even if we get green tomatoes, that's still good. I found that I can actually freeze the green tomato and just take them out and making green sauce and make add some taste to the sauce. That actually is pretty good. Another thing I found here is they don't look very good, but these are the Malabar spinach that grow from cutting. The nice thing for Malabar spinach is that they are very drought tolerant, and also once you get them established and set seeds, they will keep coming back every year, so you don't need to replant them. So I'm glad to see that this one, you see, is set. It has these beautiful flower pods, and then it become these black berries. So once we get that, I know that I will have many years supply of Malabar spinach without worrying about replanting them. This is the enemy of the fall garden in Texas. The grasshoppers, if I plant new seeds and when the weather is still warm and the grasshopper is active, they can eat up the seasoning in no time. If I plant them in the middle of, say, sweet potatoes or mustard green, then they seem so it's really challenging to plant like a patch of monoculture, and that basically become the grasshopper food. But now I caught one, and that will become chicken food. In this video, I showed you what is growing in our Texas garden in November. Usually fall is the best season for Texas gardening, But this year we have a very extremely hot and very dry fall. I'm glad to see that some of my summer crops are still producing. That's the advantage of a warm fall season. I was able to manage to put down the fall garden and make them survive the attack of the grasshoppers. Usually that's a big challenge. So at this point, I think I'm pretty happy with our garden and look like we're going to have plenty of food grow for winter. Let's hope the freeze will be coming in March, and so that we'll get more growing from the summer crop. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumb up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it down below. If you have not done so, please hit the subscribe button to follow our journey with the East by West Farms.